So, I think I'm moving up in the world because I'm filming in a nicer place, but what you guys don't see is that my camera is now balanced on a vase on top of a candy dish because I don't own a tripod, so this could end disastrously.
So you know how I said, like, not 5 seconds ago that I thought I was moving up in the world? That's a joke because I didn't realize that my camera was hideously out of focus until about right now. Feel free to scrub through. I do change cameras in a few minutes.
Alright guys, so I know it's been a while since I filmed a true crime story time, and I am ready for this one. I heard about this story a couple of months ago actually, when BuzzFeed did an article about it, and I've actually wanted to do a true crime story time about it for a while. I kind of just wanted to wait until the documentary, Mommy, Dead and Dearest, came out, which it just did, I think, a couple weeks ago. And I watched it, it was amazing. I'm so glad I waited because I learned so much more information about this case that I didn't know before. So this is the case of Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee Blanchard. As per usual, I've picked another case that kind of has two sides to every story, as well as being like kind of hard to see who was in the right. I like those because it kind of starts a debate of, are these people really this crazy, this insane, or was it completely warranted? What happened? So without further ado, we're gonna get into it. There's a siren outside. I'm not even in downtown anymore, there's still a siren outside. I feel like every single one of, there it is. I feel like every single one of my videos has a siren in it. Maybe that's a weird sign, I don't know. So anyways, this story starts in 1991 when Gypsy Rose Blanchard was born. She was born to her mother Dee Dee and her father Rod. Rod was still in high school when she was born, and Dee Dee was, I believe, like 7 years older. So it was kind of already a little interesting from the beginning. Rod has said that he, they grew up in Louisiana. He's a southern boy. You get a girl pregnant, you marry her, was kind of his mentality about it. So they ended up getting married, and they said that the problem started right away. Dee Dee would say that Gypsy was having issues, so she'd take her to a doctor, say she had mental development disability.
So you might have noticed the frame has changed. That's because my other camera decided to be crappy, so we're using this one. So Gypsy Rose was diagnosed with an unspecified chromosomal disorder as well as sleep apnea. So Dee Dee was taking Gypsy to all of these hospitals, and they would stay overnight, sometimes for a few days, and the doctors could never really find anything all that wrong with Gypsy. And this went on throughout Gypsy's childhood, and at this point Rod and Dee Dee had separated, and Dee Dee was spreading terrible rumors that Rod was kind of a deadbeat dad, he was a drug abuser, he had all of these issues, when in actuality he was paying child support every month and really wasn't all that bad at all. But this was not uncommon for Dee Dee. So Dee Dee had kind of a past of petty theft, shoplifting, and some of her family members even said that she may have had something to do with the death of another one of their family members. I'll insert that clip here if I can find it.
The day that her mom died, Dee Dee was in the house somewhere, and Dee Dee was starving her. Like Dee Dee wasn't giving her anything to eat. I asked her sister, I was like, I hate to ask this, but you think Dee Dee had anything to do with her mom's death? And she, said, now I wonder.
So moving on from there, Gypsy and Dee Dee, everything started coming to light around Hurricane Katrina. So when Hurricane Katrina happened, Gypsy and Dee Dee were forced out of their home, and through, I believe it was a fundraiser or a nonprofit, they were taken to the Ozarks where Gypsy could get better care, and so they moved there permanently. This is when things started to get even stranger. So Gypsy was born in July of 1991, but she was told that she was born about 4 or 5 years later. So even Dee Dee would tell other people that Gypsy was younger, and when her father would try to call her on her birthday, Dee Dee would say, "Don't tell Gypsy, she's 18, she thinks she's 13, all kind of perpetuating this developmental disorder that Gypsy had. And when they were in the Ozarks, this is when everything started kind of coming to light a little bit more. So they saw a doctor who noticed that Gypsy's legs had not atrophied, and if you have muscular dystrophy, that's something that is very common, that the muscles deteriorate in your legs. And Gypsy was in a wheelchair at this point. Her head had been shaved because she had leukemia, and this doctor kind of noticed, like, hey, there's not anything visibly wrong with Gypsy. He was the first one to kind of mention that Dee Dee might have a condition called Munchausen by proxy. So Munchausen syndrome in general is very interesting, but Munchausen by proxy is even more interesting. So Munchausen syndrome is essentially something where people want to be cared for. You know, they may not get it in their everyday life. Therefore, they seek it out from medical professionals. Munchausen by proxy is actually more fucked up than that. So I have the actual definition here, and it says, Munchausen by proxy syndrome is a mental health problem in which a caregiver makes up or causes an illness or injury in a person under his or her care, such as a child, an elderly adult, or a person who has a disability. Because vulnerable people are the victims, MSBP is a form of child abuse or even elder abuse. So this doctor mentioned in his report that Dee Dee exhibited signs of Munchausen by proxy. Therefore, that doctor was never consulted again, and Dee Dee eventually moved Gypsy to rural Illinois. They had a house built for them there out of a charitable foundation. Gypsy was given numerous trips to places like Disney, where she would dress up in princess dresses even though she was older in age. Gypsy was not all on board with this. You know, she was told all of these things when she was younger. You have a developmental disorder, you have vision impairment, chromosomal disorder, sleep apnea, all of these things. And she noticed in her own body, like, she knew she could walk. She knew she didn't have sleep apnea because she slept worse when she had the oxygen mask on. All of these different things. And I think the footage of them together is quite creepy to watch because you can see that Dee Dee manipulates her so much. And that if Dee Dee would grab her arm, Gypsy knew she was saying something wrong.
It just proves that happy endings are not just in fairy tales, they're real. I knew that I was different, or my life was different from other kids, but people thought of us as, you know, the sweetest mother-daughter family ever. The best two people in the world.
And Gypsy began to kind of branch out on her own, so she started meeting people online and went to a Comic-Con convention, met a man much older than her who said, you know, I'll take you away, it'll be fine, like, I'll get you out of this situation. And Dee Dee found out, came and got Gypsy, brought her home, it was a huge violent ordeal, crushed her computer, said, you know, she's never going online again. And Gypsy was genuinely scared, and she kind of knew that she had to get out of there. So Gypsy eventually found a way to get back online. And when she was online, she signed up for a Christian dating site because ultimately she was just another teenage girl or girl in her early 20s. She still had needs, she still had feelings, and she didn't really have a developmental disorder. So she knew that she wanted to find somebody who could get her out of there. And on this Christian dating website, she met Nicholas Godejohn, who is going to be a huge, huge part of this story. So Nicholas Godejohn was from Wisconsin. He had a form of autism. He also thinks he had a few other forms of like psychopathy, sociopathy, but those were all self-diagnosed. He was actually diagnosed with autism. And so when he started talking to Gypsy, he started telling her, you know, everything a girl wants to hear. I'm in love with you, you're the best. And then things started to get creepy. And he started telling her about a dark side that he has and all of his different personalities that he has. And Gypsy, not ever having been in a relationship before, wanted to please Nick and wanted to be loved by him. So she began coming up with alternate personalities to fit his alternate personalities, if that makes any sense. He was very into BDSM, submissive and dominant play, which is nothing to be ashamed of, but if your partner also does not share those feelings, there's a little bit of non-consent happening. And that was happening with Gypsy. She just thought, hey, this is a normal relationship. You know, this is how boyfriends and girlfriends act. But in reality, she was quite scared. And she didn't love the idea of being submissive, but she leaned into it to please Nick. They have all these conversations and all these pictures of, you know, Gypsy really exploring this different side of herself that she could be with Nick. They met up once in person, and the only way they were able to do that was Dee Dee took Gypsy to see Cinderella in theaters, and Nick also attended the same theater. But basically, Dee Dee noticed Nick, and they were supposed to Gypsy wanted to introduce Nick to her mother. Dee Dee had no knowledge that Gypsy was online. She had no knowledge that she had met Nick at all. And Dee Dee sees Nick in this theater of a children's movie alone, obviously gets a little creeped out about it, thinks he's weird, doesn't want to see him, so Gypsy never introduces her to Nick. Time passes, Dee Dee gets even more and more controlling. You know, she's shaving her head. She's giving Gypsy medication for all of these illnesses that has been prescribed to her. And Gypsy doesn't want any of it. So she and Nick go down this dark path of talking about running away together. And it somehow escalates to the point of, well, we should run away together, but we should kill my mother first. So Gypsy scrambled up some money to bring Nick on a bus to Illinois. She spent the night painting her nails with her mother. Her mother went to bed, and Gypsy let Nick inside the house. She gave him a knife and hid in the bathroom. She said she could hear the screams of her mother, but she ignored them. She just cuddled up in the fetal position. And then she and Nick left, and they found a hotel room, but not before Gypsy posted online on the Facebook account that her mother and her shared, "That bitch is dead." A lot of people started commenting really strange things like, you know, were you watching a movie? What is this about? What's going on? And then she posted another comment, and before I read it aloud, I really want to warn people, this is very, very kind of a graphic comment. So if you're triggered by that stuff, please skip ahead a couple seconds. "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud, lol." And the police later found out that Gypsy posted all of this before running away with Nick and going to a hotel. They were eventually arrested after some of the neighbors went to go check on Dee Dee, found her murdered, found all of these messages from Gypsy to Nick on her phone, looked up security footage at a bus station, found out where they were going, and eventually apprehended them. They were staying with Nick's family by then, and the police asked Nick's dad, you know, "Did you get a package for Nick?" And he said yes. And they opened up the package. They found the knife that had actually been used to kill Dee Dee. So it was kind of an open and closed case in that sense, but then all of this other stuff came to light. And, you know, Gypsy started admitting, like, hey, I can walk. I've never had any issues. My mother basically said that if I didn't go along with this, bad things would happen to me. So she's being essentially manipulated by her mother to have all of these illnesses. Dee Dee shaved Gypsy's head to make it appear like she had cancer. She made her wear these big Coke bottle glasses to make it appear that she had, you know, vision impairment, made her have a wheelchair, and then gave her all these medications. And in actuality, a lot of the medications caused symptoms of these other illnesses. So Dee Dee was essentially drugging her daughter. That's why this case is so strange. Nobody is innocent here. Not one of these people is innocent. Continuing on, both Gypsy and Nick were arrested. And what's so funny is you see videos of Gypsy when she was with Dee Dee, and you look at her and you think, God, this woman really is developmentally disabled. They have such a cute relationship. That's what everybody would say about Dee Dee and Gypsy, is they're so close as mother and daughter. Well, you see Gypsy talk now and you're like, holy crap, like this girl, you know, she's what, 25, 26, and she clearly speaks eloquently. You know, she still has kind of an obnoxiously high voice, but nothing about her seems to developmentally off. Nicholas Godejohn, on the other hand, has been found out to have an IQ of 82. So he definitely has a little bit more of a developmental disorder. Continuing on, the aftermath of this, Gypsy was eventually sentenced to 10 years in prison for second-degree murder. Nick, because of his IQ, because of him being on the autism spectrum, the lawyers suggesting that he has a diminished capacity, he's actually waived the right to a trial. It will be heard by a judge, and I don't believe that he has been sentenced yet. So obviously this has been really, really tough for Gypsy and her family. Her father eventually remarried. Him and his wife are also featured in the documentary Mommy Dead and Dearest, as well as Dee Dee's family. I highly suggest anybody watching it. It is incredibly fascinating. It really goes much deeper into this case, but I really want to hear what you guys think of this. You know, who is in the right, who is in the wrong? This is such a strange case. I personally don't know what to think of it. I'm very, very torn. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'm gonna try to upload a few more videos in the coming weeks. Again, if I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna tell my most scary paranormal story. For those of you who don't know, I'm also doing the Q&A. And if you would like a shout out, you can leave me a question in the comments below. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I love all of you. Have a wonderful day. 'Cause I got issues, but you got